Let's take today welding consumables. So let's study them in detail, and then we will see how the welding consumable is controlled at site. But before that, we'll have to see the welding consumable. So insert shielded and arc filler wires, lengths or rolls. Covered electrodes are available. Shielding gases, those also we use a lot for welding. Separately supplied fluxes, and they are supplied in boxes or many sacks also, which is vacuum packs and fusibles. Each consumable is critical in respect to size, classification, supplier, brand name, condition, handling, and storage. Treatments we have to do like drying and baking, because many times if it is not vacuum packed, you need to control them by doing baking first, and then you can do the holding in the holding oven. Welding consumable standards, well, for manual metal arc SMAW, we have BSEN 2560 steel electrodes and AWS A 5.1 non-alloyed steel electrodes and 5.4 chromium electrodes and 5.5 alloyed steel electrodes. Whereas we go to GTAW, it's controlled by ISO 1668, ISO 14341, AWS 5.9, and ISO 14175. The shielding gases are for that. So you have to know that for GTAW, the filler wire and the electrodes are different. Filler wire is 1668, wire is 14341. If you go to shielding gas, it's 14175. So this is important. When we go to SAW welding, it is important that you know 14171 is the welding consumable, solid wire electrodes, tubular core electrodes. Whereas for fluxes, it's 14174. And for AWS, it is a 5.17. So welding consumable for SMAW consists of core wire, typically between 350 to 450 millimeters in length and from 2.5 to 6 mm in diameter. You can also see more details of this in CSWIP class chapter 16, if I'm not wrong. Then the wire is covered with extruded flux coating. Then the core wire is generally of low quality rimmed steel. The weld quality is refined by the addition of refining agents in the flux coating so that it gets embedded into the welding. And the flux coating contains many elements and compounds that have a variety of functions during the welding. Function of flux is generally to aid the arc ignition, to improve arc stabilization, to produce shielding gas, to protect the arc from the air and other disturbance, to refine and clean the solidifying weld metal. That also is one of the important elements. Then to add alloying elements to the weld, then to control hydrogen content in the weld, and to form a cone at the end of the electrode which directs the arc. So that is also the important aspect of functions of flux. So common flux types are rutile, cellulosic, basic, acidic. So BSE 639 covered electrodes. We will see now how to, how to decipher the number. So E51 33B 160 20H. So how to know? E is of course color covered electrode. 51 is the yield strength, tensile strength. Then next 33, 2-digit is toughness, which is impact value. Then flux covering, this is basic in this case. Then weld metal recovery iron powder content, this is 160. Then welding position is 0, so that you need to know. And then electrical characteristics is H. Hydrogen content basically. So BSN 639 covered electrodes. So what is compulsory we need to write and what is optional is shown here. So E35 minimum yield strength, E38 minimum yield strength of 380, E42 and so on, it will be available like that. So if it is H10, then you know the hydrogen content. So 2 is the welding position, 7 is the weld metal recovery current type. Then B is the flux coating, and so on, what we have seen so far. So this is AWS 5.5 allied electrodes. So you can know normally when we are talking 70-16, 70-18. So you know the M is for moisture control and G is the alloying element. So cellulosic flux ends in 0 and 1. That's why it is 0 or 1 in this case of electrodes 70, 60, 10, 60, 11, 70, 10 and 80, 11. And rutile, it ends with 2, 3 and 4. So 5012, 6012, 6013, 6014, these are all rutile fluxes. And basic fluxes end in 5, 6 and 7, 8. So 70, 16, sorry, 60, 16, 70, 17, 80, 18 and 90, 18. These are all type of basic fluxes. Then it comes to MMW welding consumable, rutile electrodes are used mainly on general purpose work, low pressure pipe work and support brackets and supports in general. Then titanium dioxide slag former is there, clay is the binding agent and sodium silicate is the main ionizer in this. So advantages of rutile electrode is easy to use, low cost, basically smooth weld profile, slag easily detachable, high deposition possible with the addition of iron powder. So you can get more addition of iron powder, then you will get more deposition rate. So what are the disadvantages is that it's high in hydrogen. So hydrogen content can become a problem. Then tendency of high cracking, that is because of the hydrogen again. Low strength and low toughness value. Manual welding consumables, cellulosic electrodes used mainly in pipe welding, suitable for welding in all positions, especially vertical down and stove technique. They also produce gas shielding in very high in hydrogen. So deep penetration fusion. So flux constituents include cellulosic natural organic compounds. Titanium dioxide is a slag former, and sodium silicate and potassium silicates are the main ionizers. In cellulosic electrode, advantage is deep penetration and fusion, suitable for welding in all positions, fast travel speeds, a larger volume of shielding gas and low control required. Disadvantage is being high in hydrogen, high in crack tendency. So wherever hydrogen is high, you will know that the crack tendency is higher. Then rough cap appearance, high spatter contents and low deposition rates. Usually this is used in tertiary steel welding and low quality welding. So basic electrode is mainly used for high pressure work and for materials which is high strength steel. So obviously it will be a little bit expensive. They're capable of producing welds with low hydrogen content, and that's why their crack prevention is there in this. Prior to use, they may be baked to give a low hydrogen potential, typically 300 degrees, 350 degrees per 1 hour, 1 to 2 hours. Then flux constituent includes limestone, which is basically calcium carbonate. Fluorspar is also the slag former, and again sodium silicate and potassium silicates are the ionizers. Come to basic electrodes, coating it will be classified as hydrogen controlled. They must be produced with the hydrogen content below 15 ml of hydrogen per 100 gram of weld metal deposited. So above statement depends on many factors. The electrode must be baked as to the manufacturer recommendation. This is to drive off any moisture in the electrode flux. Vacuum packs are available also, so do not require pre-baking. The electrode must be used with minimum weave, and the electrode must be used with minimum arc gap, and also the parent material must be free from moisture and contamination. So you can see that typical baking procedure for basic electrode used in non-controlled condition. So unopened packet store at 60% RH and 2 degrees above the ambient temperature packet. Then re-dry to ensure low hydrogen condition. Then you have to bake it for 150 degrees to 200 degrees for 2 hours, and then hold it again for up to 150 degrees for 6 weeks or whatever the temperature, whatever the manufacturer recommendation, and then you have to put it in the quiver. Similarly, you have to do for the type of electrode also. So basic advantage is that high toughness values, low hydrogen contents, and lack the low crack tendency. But it is a bit expensive, difficult to control. A little bit of control is required. So welder skill is very important. And convex weld profiles you will get, and poor start-stop properties. So that's why welder skill and welder training is required a lot. So TIG welding consumables consists of wire and gas through tungsten electrode being classed as non-consumable, may be considered as consumable. So that is dia 1.6 to 10 mm you are getting the tungsten electrode. The wire needs to be very high quality and as normal, no extra cleaning elements are added. Wire is copper coated to resist the corrosion. Wire normally comes in 1 meter length, has applicable code stamped on the wire for traceability. So you can see at the end it is marked. So the shielding gas used mainly argon and helium, usually at the highest quality 99.99% purity. Ceramic shields is the size and the shape depend on the application. Then MMAW MIG welding consumables. So MIG welding consumables consists of wire and gas, same quality as that of TIG wires. The wires are copper coated again, and the main purpose is to resist the corrosion and electrical pickup. Wire are available in sizes 0.6 to 1.6 mm in diameter. Most wires are supplied on a 15 kg spool with finer wires supplied in a 1 kg spool also. So gases can be pure CO2, CO2 plus argon mix, and argon plus CO2 mix, or sorry, oxygen mixed for. Let's look at the electrode storage area in the warehouse. So this is the warehouse area where the consumables are stored, and as soon as we enter, you can see rows of electrodes and one register here. Along with that, there is a calibrated temperature monitor and RH monitor. And here we are writing the date, time, and also the signature at which the QC will come and check. You can see rows of properly kept, brand name wise, size wise, electrodes are kept, filler wires are kept, SAW fluxes are kept. So this is how you have to keep your electrodes in warehouse. And this is the central warehouse, from where this electrode will go in the small container which we showed you in the which we will show you in the upcoming next video. So from here the electrode goes to the site. So whichever company you are working for, you must ensure that whatever the welding electrodes and consumables are kept, they are kept in a cool, dry and RH controlled environment. RH is relative humidity. So this particular center, our central warehouse where we keep all the electrode and consumables, is completely temperature controlled. It has almost like 12 to 15 air conditioning units, and one can do many mechanisms to do the air conditioning. But you can see that it has to be kept brand name wise and properly segregated, and there should be labeling everywhere so that client knows what is kept where, also that the warehouse people knows where it is kept what, because sometimes you will have multiple projects. So multiple projects you need to keep it project wise segregated. So this shows that the contractor or a subcontractor is properly having the knowledge about the welding electrodes, how to keep it segregated project wise, because no one likes to mix the projects. Also, when you transfer your consumable from one project to another, it has to be done in a proper ledger book, and then only it has to be transferred physically from one place to another. I also forgot to mention that you need to have one quarantine area in this place, where if you find any, during your inspection, if you find any electrode it is not conforming to the requirement, then you have to put it in quarantine area till the proper decision is made or NCR raised, proper the disposition, the vendor has to be contacted, and then the vendor will finally take this and replace you with the new one. So you need to have the quarantine area properly there with barricaded, and it should be known to everybody where the quarantine area is, because it is a very important part of ISO 9001. So with this, I think we should end this video of the warehouse and then go to the satellite store where this is going for further distribution. Stainless steel application. Okay, today we are going to see how the consumable storing is done. So I have selected one container, and we will check in this container how the consumables are kept. So there is always one attendant required. So you can see this is a completely air conditioned container. Here one person will sit and analyze all the data and incoming and outgoing. So we need a weigh bridge here. So this is a weighing scale, and in that scale we will weigh all the consumables that we give to the welders. Then this is the format where we will capture all the data, time given, welder ID, then you can see AWS class, rod diameter, and the signature of the person who has taken the welding consumable. Similarly, you can see this is a return record. So when the welder will come back in the evening, he will give this electrode back. Then again we are going to write all the details of welder ID, then the brand name, the AWS class, return, how much is returned, then receive timing, and then the sign and everything, data, things like that. Then comes the one more thing is welding baking electrode. This is the baking when we are doing the baking, or we are noting down again the details, which batch number, lot number has been put into the baking oven, what was the temperature, so, and all that details is noted down here. So what time you have put the electrode in the baking oven, and what time we have removed, including, and then we have put the holding temperature. So you need a very properly calibrated temperature gauge here, which can also show you RH, relative humidity. So you can see this is a calibrated gauge we have put here. So one more record is, this is the record of that temperature monitoring. So every now and then this temperature has to be noted down and monitored. So there will be a consumable control procedure behind this, and that is asking all these things to be done. So you can also implement this in your company, because this helps a lot in showing that how much you care about the welding consumable. So this is calibration certificate. Make sure that it is posted on the wall, because whenever any auditor comes, he wants to see the calibration date and everything. So make sure that it is not having only the sticker behind, but also the calibration certificate should be available on site. Just a copy of the certificate should be enough. So remember this, that calibration duration is 1 year here, but if you are doing a Aramco project, it is actually 6 months. So it should be calibrated every 6 months. So these are some examples I will show you. This is Bowler Fox welding electrode is vacuum pack. So this vacuum pack has been kept here, 7018 and 7016, both kind of electrodes we have. You can see this is vacuum pack, so it doesn't require any baking right now. One time you can just issue it to the welder, and it can stay with the welder for 10 hours. So these kind of vacuum pack is the highest quality you can give to the construction and fabrication, because usually if you are not having this, then we have to go through first cycle of baking and then holding oven. So naturally the time is consumed, electricity is consumed. So vacuum packs are very, very good for quick welding. And so more electrodes are coming from the site, is also stored here. For example, this 3 mm FCAW wire, this wire has come back with this seal, but the seal was broken. It was used, some part of it was used and then returned to the store. So that also information is required to be logged in to the format and then kept it very nicely so that it will not corrode. So these are the flux core welding wires, the weld arc, which we use 71 T1C. This also can see is also returned, and both new and returned are kept here. So you have to take care of the welding consumable like a small baby, and you have to keep it in the right temperature and relative humidity so that it will last longer and your welding will also be top notch, good quality. So also where you keep these filler wires and electrode, you need to properly label it. You can see we have labeled it on the scaffolding, some labeling is there so that you know where you have kept and you can easily get back when you require it. You can see more electrodes now. We will show you that how it is kept. So whether it be filler wire, whether it be used electrode, or whether it will be used filler wire, or whether it be new filler wire, all these are kept in proper temperature controlled environment so that the end quality, when they will be issuing it to the welder, this will go outside where the temperature is very hot, and then it will be giving very good quality, and it also will last longer. It will improve the shelf life. Also, as per the manufacturer guidelines, we are not supposed to keep it in hot sun or a place where there is a very high humidity. So you can see that the new wire, how it is properly packed. Pack is not removed. The whole box will be issued to the welder, and then he will give back in the same box. So Kiswell 71 UT, it's also same way. It's all kept here to ensure that they are all kept in proper and good condition. H4R, so if anybody must have noticed, H4R is the lowest hydrogen level, very good for welding, and you will not pick up any hydrogen crack. So you can see filler wire is also similarly, for piping, welding, Jitao filler wires are also kept here in a proper temperature controlled environment. You can see 2.4 mm rod is kept here. This is the filler wire for TIG welding. Okay, 12.64. Length is almost 1 meter. So you have to keep it, properly, and you cannot mix anything. You have to keep it in the proper, this is 309 2.4 mm. So without mixing properly with labeling, so this is how it is done. And in your company, if things are very, very bad and not properly organized, see, the air conditioning should always be working, and every time it should be working. And then you have to ensure, you have to tell maintenance that this air conditioning should never be down. At least in the peak summer months, it should not be down. So you can see a lot of electrodes are there in any company that is doing a lot of fabrication and welding. So naturally this has to be kept properly segregated, brand name wise, and also manufacturer recommendation should be available on site. MSSP data always should be available on site. You can see some flux can be stored here. So tube rod 3 mm is being stored here as well. So you can see we had so many brand names here in this particular facility. This is 11018 Lincoln electrode. This is also stored here. This is used to weld very high strength steel. So obviously you have to take more care of such expensive and very premium electrodes. So these are some used filler wires which have come from, and when it is used you need to write the welder name who has returned, so that when it will be given, that will be removed and the next welder name will be written on the sheet and given to him. That is why an attendant, full-time attendant is required, so that he knows what has been kept where and all the labeling, all the documentation behind this. So you can see one more electrode. This is easy arc. 3.25 kg. It has been stored here in this warehouse. It's not a warehouse, actually this is a satellite store. And then you also need this weigh scale, small one, so that for when the people will return the electrodes, this can be weighed here and then the entry can be made in the register. So now let's go and see the typical baking oven, holding oven. So this is the flux baking oven. You can see it is like a hopper, and this is at the precise temperature as required by the procedure, and it is always required to be monitored. So there will be a monitoring sheet behind this. Then we have some holding ovens and baking ovens. This one is the holding oven. So holding oven, generally after doing the baking, we are holding this for some temperature, and from here, and you can see ideally you need to put that metal tag for which electrode you are keeping, because you cannot write here, it is very hot temperature. So you can use some sheet metal and you can put the either brand name, or you want to put the rod diameter, or you want 7016, that need to be written there, so that only those electrodes can be put there. That is called as a proper segregation method. If that tag is not there, then you have to individually check, and also there is chance of mixing. So that to avoid that, these tags are very, very important. Ensure that you can also implement this in the oven, so that he can easily check which electrode goes where. Proper segregation can be maintained. So these ovens should always be working, and you should tell your maintenance department that they should do something which, so that there is no power supply issue with this. And also outside you can post what is kept inside, so that it is easily known to everybody. And this temperature gauge and everything should be calibrated, so that that we have some assurance that the temperature is maintained every time. So based on brand name, based on diameter, based on your usage, you can keep in various holding ovens and baking ovens. Then the quivers are also used in the site, because even if we are using vacuum pack, we can use the quivers and ensure that they are not going to lose the temperature. So that quiver will help you a lot in maintaining the company's assurance towards the quality, and you have to maintain that quiver very well. You have to always keep on maintenance, because the quiver, every day it is getting banged here and there, and it will lose shape, or it will lose its temperature holding. 70 degrees it should be there in the quiver when you are using.